Не, я не шучу, я большой грешник. Эй, не стоит меня винить. Я уверен, что смогу разобраться с этим. Ну ты... Твою мать, верни кувалду!
Заткнись, ясно? Убиваю. Не видите, я делом занят. Заткнись, ясно?
Я не хочу с этим связываться. Да пошел ты.
transforming the tunes. We need your support. If you got the breath back, it's the first page of the second chapter. I want you back for the rhythm attack, coming down on the floor like a maniac. I want you back for the rhythm attack, get down in full effect. I want you back.
Beautiful girls looking puzzled in a daze. I know it's confusing you. Daddy's always on the move, mama's always on the news. I try to keep you sheltered from it, but somehow it seems the harder that I try to do that, the more it backfires on me. All the things growing up as daddy that he had to see. Daddy don't want you to see, but you see just as much as he did. We did not plan it to be this way, your mother and me, but things have got so bad between us. I don't see us ever being together. Meant to be, but it's just something we have no control over, and that's what destiny is. But no more worries, rest your head and go to sleep. Maybe one day we'll wake up and this'll all just be a dream. Now hush, little baby, don't you cry. Everything's gonna be alright. Stiffen that up, pull it up, little lady. I told ya, daddy's here to hold ya through the night. I know mommy's not here right now, and we don't know why. We feel how we feel inside. It may seem a
Вот
little
идиот! Придурок!